All Good, good, good. Excellent condition for the stream settings. I embarrassingly started this stream not realizing my OBS stuff was all messed up. So I very quickly stopped the stream, started this new one after I fixed OBS. Very embarrassing, but the footage has been deleted forever, so you're never going to know. And I don't think anybody was online to see it. Nobody except for me. All right, we're working on the URL bar. Let's go to a real life example here. Remember, we're working in Chrome, and there's so many different hover states. Like hovering on the bar itself turns it light, right? But then when we hover on either of these buttons on either end, either the site information or the little bookmarks icon button, the hover state is lost on this main area. Oh, I wonder if Figma's ever going to have us or give us the ability to change the cursor on hover. That would be cool. I'm just noticing that happening here because this is a typable field, right? This is an input. And then on click, right? Other things show up. This Google Lens thing is nuts, but like we need to have, like, this is it in its focus state, right? So yeah, this is next because last stream it was all these buttons on the side. We'll make our way to the right eventually, but yes, the bar itself. So we'll zoom in. Again, we're mostly focusing on color right now. I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff from the past. We're not as concerned about dimensions, but I might as well give myself a bit of a head start. 34 tall is what we're working with, which is helpful because I want to probably match that for the border radius here. And we will start in, I think light mode is our default, yes, our default color setup. I want to like arrange my browser windows. In the past, I'm notorious for not realizing on like my monitor where I'm working over here that this little frame with my face in it is like covering what I'm doing. So I want to set this up accordingly. Okay, cool. This is going to have to be a component, right? Because it's interactive. And I think I expect that will match our inventory here. We need a URL input, yes. And we need states, default and hover, whether or not it's active, yes. Because remember, this is active. I can hover over it. Nothing happens, but something could happen, right? Those are not active. Whether or not a thing is active does not change whether or not you can hover over it. So those are separate properties. We should split them. So this is going to be URL, not URL bar. What are we calling this? What did I just... URL input. I think colloquially we would refer to this as the URL bar, but I want bar to mean this entire like area, that whole section of the browser Chrome. So got our input. We're going to have an icon button in it. We're going to have two icon buttons in it. Let's look at our assets. And we know that a lot of our stuff that's done is on phase 1. We've got our icons. This is not very well organized yet. We know we're going to need this little site information icon, but I'm wondering, do we have a generic? I don't know if we do. It might need to be a nested component. So let's build this from nothing. Or nested, like a subcomponent, like specific to this URL input. 24. Great. We'll remove the stroke. We will add that background fill. And we can grab site information, put it inside, center it up. We will use auto layout here. We will have this fixed. We want 24 by 24. Again, Figma thinks it knows better than me. I wish it didn't. Yeah, what's going on here? My goodness. Reset. What? Fill? Very weird very much disagree with these um, assumptions it's making. I really want to make sure that this is what it ought to be. Yes, the icon is hugging. Okay, so this, it's going to need its own hover state too, right? So let's go ahead and turn this into variant set or component set. Oh, create component set. So this will be icon, button, site information. If I have that right, I think that's how I was doing things before. And then the property here is going to be state. We have default. This one will be hover. I think this one's called frame 49 though, and that's not going to do. Okay. How was I dealing with phase one color here? Oh, yes. Okay, never mind. So we have an entire icon button section. Good. So let's expand this. We'll go back to planning over here. So what does that hover state look like? And I imagine it'll actually be the same. No, it won't. See, this one has a fill that we can see, but this one does not. So yeah, different kind of guys. In fact, this one's hover state is this one's default state. That's fascinating. Okay. I need to, I'm realizing, go into light mode so I can get that color. And we'll come back over to Figma and promptly go back to dark mode. Oh, and something that I did in OBS. Oh my gosh. Sunlight is changing with the seasons. I'm realizing if there's anybody in the chat, I've not been able to see it because earlier when my stream was all messed up, I was trying to get rid of anything superfluous. So I've got the chat up now. All right. Hover is this color. And let's set that up. Wow, hovering. Good. Okay. And then, and yeah, because yeah, we need light mode, dark mode for this. So let's make a color variable. Let's throw it into a group immediately. This is going to be, again, our URL input. And it lives in Chrome. And this is specifically going to be for the site information button. Oh, but hold your horses. This is interesting. This is interesting to think about. We have icon buttons over here. Oh, hold on. I need to like change the brightness on my displays. My computer is really freaking out about the sunlight coming through. Okay. So what do, right? This icon button belongs to the URL input, but we have a space for it over here. I think I want to keep it in here because that kind of matches how I'm organizing the components. So let's start with that. This will be a new group in icon buttons. Yeah, and this will be, I'm going to call it URL input site info. So we know that this, well, there's only so many. I think we can just get away with site info. Cool. And so we have background, default, which is white. And then again, we can use our color picker here. Oh, oops, nope. That's not correct at all. Duplicate. Hover. This is where it goes. We're working totally in light mode right now. And then if we switch to dark mode, oh, we're in dark mode. So we've got, well, we know, I think we have that already over here. If we move some of these things out of the way. The default in dark mode is this, but the hover state is lighter. good. Okay, we can delete that. What about the foreground? I don't think the foreground changes. In light mode, it looks to be black, right? The color of the icon itself. Not quite, 1F. And then in dark mode, E3. And I don't think those change on hover. Doesn't appear to. So we can just have it say foreground. And so now this, select 2 using this color. We will look for site info. That will become the foreground. And then site info, background default, site info, background hover. And we have this working across modes. Great. So that's our icon button done. URL bar, right? Let's go back into Chrome. We'll create a color. Again, we are going to need URL input, background. It's not white. We know in light mode, it's this color. And so let's go ahead and apply that URL input background. So then when this goes in, and let's apply auto layout. Once again, I have lost all my stuff. 34. I don't want it centered and I don't want all that padding. Start with 0. And again, we can figure out later the exact ones. 5 looks kind of correct. Okay, so we've got this working icon button. Let's go ahead and paste this over into this section. We're gonna need another one of these as well for, oh my gosh, my display has gone totally dark over there. We're gonna need another one of these for the favorites or bookmarks. And we're gonna go ahead and swap this star bookmarks. I remember it's slightly different naming. It should also probably be 24 by 24, but we know that the fill is just gonna be empty. And then this is actually gonna be the hover, or the hover is default. Like these need to be using the same variable. So let's see what that looks like. Let's go back over to planning. And I think what we want to do, site information, bookmarks, yeah, that doesn't look quite right. It looks like the foreground is different. So we're going to need icon buttons, site info. Let's create another color, move it out into icon buttons, new group. We'll call this bookmarks. I'm going to get consistent with how I'm capitalizing things here. Foreground is in light mode a slightly lighter gray, and in dark mode probably a slightly darker gray. I wonder if that changes. It doesn't appear to change on hover, so we'll leave that be. Let's go back. We need to change the color here of the foreground. We'll go to bookmarks, foreground, that is it. Great. Planning. Come back over here. We know we're going to need that label. This is going to get interesting. There's multiple ways we could do this, right? So what I did was just set up a container auto layout frame that has both the site information and the what will be the URL address. But actually, now I'm thinking that's not the way to go. This should just be set to fill, right? And at some point, it should probably truncate. Like, if I have a really long URL that goes on and on, eventually, okay, this is what we see happening is that we stay with the end. We can still see what we're typing here, but the beginning starts to push out. Can we, is that prototypable? Would that be easy to do? Maybe not. But that's the behavior. Now, if I come out of here though, you can see we've got 3-dot ellipses. So we know that we can reflect that in Figma at least. Like if I take what I just typed here and I paste it in, oh my gosh, no, I want the actual string. And I don't really want this. We get the same effect, right? No matter how long this is. Okay. Something else. Hold up. This has changed. What happens if I refresh this? Okay, so we've got site information, but as soon as I start typing, this comes up. How did I get that globe? Hold on. To my site. Yeah, what? Clicking on it does nothing. We will see if I have the patience to do all that. For now, let's get our states sorted out. Oh, and also let's get the padding sorted out just a bit, like because if this did have a fill on it, okay, no, that looks like it's in a decent spot. So again, we're gonna need a hover state, and we're gonna need focus states. I might be getting ahead here because I feel like there's more to do around this string. Let's see. I'm gonna at least change the string to just my my own website because I can. Okay. Cool. So we're gonna need 4 variants in this set. Create component set. We have a property for state, and we have a property for focused. And so the way that we will do that is have these two guys be default and these two be hover. And then we will have each of these be focused true, default will be focused false. And now we can style them. So if we go, let's refresh that page. And again, light mode, what does this look like on hover? Kind of a nasty gray. Drop that in. Let's bring the variables back. You can barely see it on the canvas. URL input background default. Let's duplicate that to have background hover. Grab the gray. Only a slight difference. And we want this one to be hover because we know that that reflects the state over here. Good. And then for the focus state, this ring shows up. It is not floating. There's not like a gap between this ring and the input, so we could get away with just adding a stroke. rather than my favorite way, the Molly Helmuth way, which is the absolute positioned nested focus ring, which is such a brilliant solution. So for now, though, we'll just go with the stroke. And again, different colors. Now, probably if we reuse, I would hope that the focus is consistent across fields or inputs and things. We will find out. I bet we want this on the outside. It looks like it's 2 pixels thick. Let's do URL input. The reason why I'm saying like I hope it's consistent across is because this is probably a variable that could just be used universally. We will find out though. I will have to make a note that these variables might need to move. So for now, they're going to belong to URL input directly. So we've got color. We'll call this focus ring. And in light mode, we know it is this darker blue. In dark mode, it is a lighter blue. And we can just change it to focus ring. Good. Now let's set up the interactions. While hovering. I guess we could lighten up the variant set if we just don't even include the hover state for, because like when you're focused on it, nothing happens, right? There's not going to be an interaction that gets you to, oh wait, no, that's not true. Clicking gets you there. And then, why are you busted? This interaction must swap from a variant to another variant with the same components. Okay. Cool. So that's that. It can't be that easy, can it? I mean, again, I said I wasn't going to totally optimize for prototyping. I guess having the text highlight here, suggesting that you're in and clicking anywhere, right? Except for the buttons. Let's remove that bookmark. Creates this highlight on the text. How might we do that? Let's at least do that here. And also let's clean up our layer names perhaps. So this is going to be address, which probably wants to be component property. So yeah, this needs to be highlighted. And so perhaps in this case, let's do all this. Let's put this in a frame. We'll call this address container. And specifically here in, let's go out of multi-edit, we need to use these colors as the fill, right? And of course it's different. These are different. Well, let's see if we can, hold on. I bet we can find the blue that maybe works in both cases. I don't know. This will be tricky. Let's start with light mode and like maybe that might be it. Then I don't have to have a variable for it. If I can just have this transparency that works across both of them, I think that's close enough for me. Okay, so let's copy the properties of that and apply it to the address bar. So that way, no matter what, you're going to get the correct setup, right? But we need it to adhere to, here's the trouble, the length of the string, which means we can't rely on the string to push stuff out. At the same time, okay, at the same time. So address container, let's change the address to be hug. We'll change the address container to be hug. And then like before, I need to do that thing where address container and the icon are in an auto layout frame. We'll just call this container for now. And we want that to be fill. So this works when the whole URL is visible, but then this starts to happen. So how do we address that? How does that work over here? The bookmark. Oh, the bookmarks go away when there's enough information in here. So I think at some point this needs to clip contents, right? And then what's our, I guess the space between is the thing that's kind of getting in the way here, and we'll get that sorted out. Is there a setting for that here where it's set to hug, max lines 1, and we don't have the text truncating? Again, 90% accuracy is fine with me. We need to get dark mode sorted out. Yes, dark. Let's see. So the default is this color. Oh, we also need the foreground just for the address. Well, I'm gonna actually call that address too. Oh, but do we have 2 colors here? Shoot, yeah. We will see again if I am up to the task. Okay, and then on hover, what does this look like? URL input, address. Okay, that is looking better. Dark mode, light mode. And it looks like the weight of this is probably medium. We'll have to figure out the font and all that. That is not, again, related to color mode, so that's going to come at a later date. But I'm pretty happy with that as a start. There's other things that can be done. Let's actually make note of them on the component. Potential enhancements, fidelity enhancements. We can get a list going and we can kind of check them off as we go. So what would we call this, where you've got the main address and then like subpages? Subpages within the address are a different color than the main.com address. So that's one thing. The other thing, it was the truncation. Truncation of address. There's also disappearing bookmarks, bookmark icon button when address overflows. We also had the change of site information icon button in certain circumstances, and we found there was like a globe icon, and there was also like a Google G logo mark for searching, perhaps is what that was about. So these are some things that I could come back and, like, again, if I tackle these things, like I'll probably just emoji react, you know, okay, check, check, check. And if I resolve the whole thing, I resolve the whole thing. But that could be sort of running list. So let's put URL input. Now that we know that the instances are behaving in color mode the correct way, at least with this bare minimum stuff, this can go now over onto color themed components, right? Add that to the collection. Okay. All right. That did not take nearly as long as I thought. Let's get the next piece sorted out. Oh, and hold your horses. Okay. So yeah, let's put this in here. Let's, oops, I don't want to remove the fill. I want to remove the color mode. So with the instance sorted out, now we got to sort out its behavior within. So I imagine we want it to fill, right? Because if I take this guy, stretch this out, I don't think there's an upper limit. Yeah, it just fills forever in Chrome. But then we have this thing, the extensions. So that's our next piece. And it seems like the container is a component because we have this hover state, or it's going to need to be a component. We have a hover state where a stroke shows up. This is forever present probably, but then these, of course, are my own extensions that I have in here. So it needs to be kind of expandable. It needs to probably expand to the left. Like if I unpin that one and then pin it back. Oh, can I reorder them? Let's get those back in the right order. And then these are icon buttons themselves, right? Oh, hold on. I kind of want to test. I kind of want to test this in the inline prototyping. Let's take this out of its focus state so we can actually do it. What about dark mode? Okay, that looks correct. Oh, but here's something else. because we are hovering on the button, but we're also hovering over this area, might need to do some things. That's going to be another item for here. Hover on icons turns your URL input background back to default. Let's do that right now because that's going to bother me actually to not. So we also want on hover here, we need another variable to change. Not only do we need to change variance within this nested instance, but we also need to set a variable. Or maybe it's not setting a variable. Maybe it is changing to, darn it, hold your horses. How do we do that? Okay, maybe I don't care that much about it. I have made note of it. But yeah, you can see here, hovering on the button puts the whole bar back into its regular state. Not the case in this prototype. I'm gonna let it go, but that's it's not ideal. Not ideal for prototyping, but we're not optimizing for prototyping. Okay, let's turn our attention back to the bookmarks thing. It is probably also going to be 34 pixels tall because it's going to need to match the height of the URL bar. It's not going to have a fill at first. It's also going to have probably, it's totally round, right? And we know that this will be a create component set. We are going to have state, we have default, and hover. And on hover, it gets the stroke. And let's see what color that is. In light mode, in dark mode. And we're going to need another color variable in Chrome. We'll call this stroke. Or I guess stroke hover. And this belongs in a group called extension container, I think is what this component is. Extension container. Let's check and see if this was part of the inventory, if that name matches. Icon button. I kind of have a feeling that I didn't make something for that. Yeah, this was not in the inventory, but also let's strike through all of that because that's done. And real quick, extension container, it's going to have the same properties there. Oh, hold on. So on hover, oh, I wonder if this is the same gray. No. But in context, it very much looks it. Okay, stroke, on hover, prototype. So this is going to be an interesting one, right? Because again, for prototyping, you're going to want to be able to put as many extensions in here as you wish, right? It's kind of like an unlimited number, but the container does something, right? And it's a component. So we're going to have all these little nested icons. This is a constant. I'm not going to pressure test this. A thought that just came up was like, oh, I wonder if there's an upward limit that Chrome lets you display in here. Like, could I have so many extensions installed that this URL input gets crunched to the left? I'm I'm not going to bother testing it, but I think for the Figma prototype, I don't want to set a limit of like, oh, you have 5 and like just decide that. I think you should be able to put in whatever you want. I might start folks with a default of 3. Like you get 3 extensions. If you need more, it would be a matter of like making that a local component, and you would have, you know, those little interface representatives, which I have a blog post about, to swap in, like use as your foundation. Ooh, excuse me. So let's cut this over to phase 1 because this is done. This was a very simple one. Extension container. But now we need those icon buttons of these things. And it looks like yeah, they will also be 34 pixels tall, 34 by 34. And then for the thing that goes inside of them, and again, want this round, it's going to need a hover state. We'll call this extension icon button. We're going to need something inside. Should be doing this on the planning page. For the image. And it looks like it's a 16 by 16 image. And I'm going to set it as an image. We'll call this logo, because they're going to be logos. Well, they might not be logos, right? Not maybe logos like proper. Whoa. Like, is this a logo? Maybe not. I think more often than not, they're logos. Could you call it an icon? It's kind of both. Either way, let's get light and dark mode sorted out. So we've got extension container. This is another icon button. So let's put a color in here. New group. Put it on the bottom. This is going to be extension. Actually, yeah, it'll just be extension button. And it will be background hover. That's the only one we need. In light mode, it is this gray. In dark mode, it is this gray. But you can see it kind of spills out of its container a bit. We will see how that looks. And here's the other thing. In some cases, we need it to be okay, here's what I think we do. Actually, yeah, let's get rid of that because we need an icon. And it's this. And we need it to be centered. And the foreground is different. So icon extension button color, foreground, and the foreground does not change. Light mode is that gray. Dark mode is this gray. We will apply that to extension foreground. Good. So now when you are working with an instance of this, let's go out of multi-edit mode, you're going to want to be able to swap this icon with like an image. And so I think what I want to do, well, yeah, is have what I had before, which was a 16 by 16, right? Image. We will call this extension logo as something that you can swap with this. So let's make this a, geez, yeah, swap property. I don't know what I'm going to call this yet, but yeah, like when I'm working with an instance, get out of multi-edit. Oh, and property one, state, right? So I want to be able to swap this, and I want to have it be a preferred swap, right? You either get that or you get extension logo. Those are your options. So when you are swapping this, you could swap that in and then access the image. And so what do we name this? Maybe that's actually a variant. I wonder, I think a variant might be more appropriate here instead of the swap. I'm going to get rid of that property. So let's, because it's kind of like, is it populated or not, you know? I'm going to take auto layout off of there. So same deal, but instead of this guy, I want extension logo. The property, it's a variant property, is going to be, I guess like we'll have default and then we'll have like, is image? I don't know. This is kind of a tough name. We could do like true false because this is the default. How does that feel? If we're working with this instance, is image state 4? No, we want this to be hover and this to be default. I think it's actually a separate component. Because they're going to do different things anyway, right? This opens a menu. This like runs a little extension or opens a new tab. So we've got extensions. Yeah, I think that's the move. So we've got extension button. Oh my God, they're both extension buttons, you know? What else could it be though? Extension button default, extension button logo. We can try that. And so then what we get with these, again, let's paste these. in here. And these are all kind of related. So now when we're working with this, there's always, always, always going to be this guy. And let's make sure it's in both. We do want auto layout on these. Let's have them go to the right. We want 0 padding. But like as this extends, okay, that's what we want. And then we need to be able to have like, yeah, the set of other ones. So what would that look like? That would be like a bunch of these. That would be a set of these. Again, I said 3. We'll call this extension set. Extension set lives in here. Okay, this is going to need auto layout on it. And what is up with this padding? Oh, I don't want this to fill. Hug would be better. So now when you're dealing with this, oh, and let's probably take off the space between. Now when you're dealing with this, this can become a swappable extensions, right? So you can swap this with anything else, with any other extension set. And then of course you can go in and you can update the images. And maybe it can actually, maybe it'll be nice and give folks a couple options out the gate. So one with just the 1 extension, another one with 2, another one with 3. And then if you need 4, you build it yourself. Because then what I can do here is have, for extensions, we can have, yes, 1, 2, and 3 as preferred swaps. Yes, and this kind of makes more sense. How many extensions do you want? 1, 2, or 3? Nice. And I probably do want to populate these with some images at some point. Okay, let's grab this, go back to planning, put that in. Let's put it here. And we probably want, again, at some point, some space between, but that's our extensions. And we're hovering over it. Oh, we need to get hover states, or on hover, while hover on these guys. While hovering, planning. Let's put this in one of our more extreme ones. Okay, does that kind of do? Oh, when you're hovering over this, it doesn't show up. Interesting. Let's make another note. Hovering on the puzzle icon does not make the stroke appear on the container, only for actual extensions. The stroke only appears for actual extensions. Yeah, we'll see if we can gracefully do that. But that's that chunk. I can go for, I think, a little bit longer. So we've got like this kind of vertical bar in here. In dark mode, I think we actually already have it, I imagine. Yeah. don't know what we're gonna call that. I guess like extension profile divider. It's part of the URL bar. Extension profile pipe. And in light mode, we've got that color. In dark mode, we've got that color. No components needed here. I think this is truly just how tall is it? Looks like it also has rounded corners. Okay, I'm gonna cut that to my clipboard. Please cut that to my clipboard. Come back, paste it in. Cool, and now, again, light mode, dark mode, that'll change. And then it's just 2 more icon buttons. Debating if I want to keep going. I think I might pause though, but this is good progress. We've got like a decent amount of browser Chrome done and working. I'll have to figure out if there's a way like clicking outside of something and then like setting the variant back will be interesting. But this is like, we're nearly there. Because after this, it's just the bookmarks bar. That's really the next big piece. So that could be, yeah, I think for the next stream, finishing out the URL bar, we're going to need the profile. We're going to need a little 3-dot menu for Chrome. And then we can probably continue on to, excuse me, the bookmarks. And I will, let's see, could I stream tomorrow morning? I think I could. I'm going apple picking with friends in the afternoon. So there's time. All right. I will probably plan on that.